Hi, it's Anna from the Making House, and so in this video I'm showing you how to make a dream catcher for Fleet Art's Christmas making pack. This is your dream catcher pack. You've got your willow circle, you've got fabric to wrap your willow circle, you've got sparkly stuff to hang at the end as tassels, you've got some white yarn to create the web, and you've got a darning needle which you might need at the end for finer detail. So we're now going to get on. The first thing you need is your willow circle and your fabric. So the first thing you need to do is wrap your willow. So I've got here some recycled fabric for you to use. I'm going to go with the turquoisey one, and we're going to open that up and first of all tie it on. So I'm going to look at the shape. I'm probably going to have the thicker bit at the bottom, so I'll make that the top, and that's where I'm going to put my first piece. So I'm leaving a nice gap at the top, so you can see by my hand it's about 10 centimetres, and that will create the hanging loop. And I'm just doing a standard knot, so I'm just tying that round there. Okay, and then all we're doing with this is wrapping round. So much the same as the wreaths. If you've done the wreaths, we're just going round and round and round, pulling it quite nice and tight and make sure it overlaps. So I'm going to do that the whole way around the wreath. Before I start wrapping round, I'm actually going to bind this yarn up a little bit, so it's easier to use. So I'm going to wrap it around my hands. I'm going to try and keep it quite flat. It'll help to stop it twisting as we wrap it around. So we'll go like that, and then what I'm going to do is just secure it with that pipe cleaner, and then every so often I'll take a little bit more off. You don't have to do that, but I've found that it's much easier to kind of work with if it is bound up. So the other thing is a wrap round. I'm going to try and keep the fabric flat, and that will save time because it covers up much quicker than if it starts to twist. You can see the twisty bit is a bit messy, but once you kind of flatten it out, you get a nice finish. So if I get to there, I can then release the pipe cleaner and take off a couple of more bits of the fabric, tie it back up again and keep going like that. And it does make it much easier. Okay, so I'm now going to speed up and go all the way around right back to the beginning. So I've got to the end, there's just enough of the blue, there's plenty of the grey. So it really did pay off to take my time. My dad always used to say less haste, more speed, and in this case definitely right. I was able to space it out a lot more, and it actually ended up being quicker by taking each turn slower. And it's given a much neater finish, so I improved from here to here. So what I'm going to do now is just tie these two together. So I'm going to tie them here at the base. Okay, make sure they're nice and secure. I think I might double knot it again. Okay, and then I can use the two of those and tie a knot there, and that gives me my hanging loop at the top. Alternatively, I could have that as a tassel at the bottom. So I'm going to go there and twist that end in there to create my knot at the top, and just squash that up. And there's my hanging loop. Okay, I'm now going to start on the web, and this is the yarn for your web. I would definitely recommend you wrap your yarn up on your pipe cleaner. So like in the wreath packs, your yarn came all nice and wrapped up on the pipe cleaner. It makes it really easy to pass through and control the wool so it doesn't get in a jumble. So I'm going to gently kind of open that out and just begin to wrap up. So having wrapped a few of these now, I would say kind of wrap, doesn't have to be too tight, focus in an area and just keep wrapping around and wrap along the length so it's quite nice and thin, because as you go further along you want to be able to fit through the sections of the web, so you don't want it to be too fat. So it takes time to do this, but trust me, it's worth it. It's hugely frustrating if your wool gets all jumbled up and you're trying to pass through a ball of wool through the little loops of the web. It's really frustrating, so just take a bit of time out, stick some telly on or your favourite music and wind your wool onto your pipe cleaner. So, as if by magic, here is one that I just did earlier. So I'm going to take a little bit off. So I'm going to work with, say, lengths about that long at a time. Okay, so our first thing, as always, is to knot it on. I'm going to go the other side of that because it'll stop it from moving around. And just going to do a double knot around there. So I might even knot it 3 times to make sure it's really nice and secure. There we go. And I'm not going to trim that. I would recommend popping a teeny bit of nail varnish, clear nail varnish on that knot, just to make sure that it doesn't come unravelled. And then once that's done and dried, I can take that end off. Okay, so creating your dream catcher, the web of your dream catcher, it's the same kind of knot the whole way round the web. So there are some great dream catcher videos out there, so this is a really simple pattern, but just Google and there'll be other people doing exactly the same thing. You know, probably know what they're doing a little bit more than me, if I'm honest, but at least I can explain what I've learnt in the process of doing this. So our basic knot, you're going to kind of loop over the top, and then you want to come back through the middle, and then you're going to pull it across to the side. So we're pulling across to the side, and then you want to begin to pull it tighter. So you've got quite a bit of tension on there. Don't want it too loose. Okay, how you space it out is up to you. On my favourite one, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've spaced it out 12 times. So they're about 2 thumbs apart each time. However you do it, you want to try and make sure it's even. So you could do it smaller and have a more intricate web, or you could do it bigger and have a less intricate web. So I'm going to go again with a similar pattern because I liked how that worked. And so I'm going, let's redo that again. So I'm going over and then through on the inside of the loop, pulling it tight and then moving it along. So over, through, position it, pull it tight. And I'm just going to kind of keep moving them, trying to get them nice and even. I'm going to go through this whole first row and show you what kind of happens before we start the second row. And then it just becomes the same process all the way along. So there. Keep releasing a bit of yarn as you go. Keep that tension nice. You can always grab the yarn as you go in. There we go. Bear with me as I make my way around this first loop. So I just want to show you what happens when we get back to the start. Always over, inside, and then pull. Over to the inside of the loop, position. Let's position that a bit neater and pull. I'm going to try and squeeze in 2 more up here. So now I'm back at this centre. I started on this side of that knot. I'm going to finish on that side so it's nice and secured in. And then this bit kind of confused me a little bit, which is why I wanted to show you. So we want to then always be working from the middle of the loop. So this very first one, I've got to kind of go to the middle of that piece of string, carry on threading it through, and then pull it. And again, you want tension, but not too much. And then we carry on doing the same as before. So I'll release a bit more wool and go over, back through again, position it to the middle of there and pull. And then we move on to the next one. And that's it. That's what we do to the middle. So I'm going to keep going as long as I can with this, and then I'll stop and change over to my needle. It's beginning to get a bit tricky now to get through those loops, so I'm going to change over to a darning needle. What you might have noticed me doing is I trimmed the ends off the pipe cleaner because I was bugging me. They kept getting stuck in the yarn. And also, as it got a little bit thinner, I folded my pipe cleaner in half so it was nice and easy to thread through. So I'm now moving on to my darning needle. I don't want to leave myself short of wool, so I'm going to give myself about, ooh, I'm going for nearly an arm length, so you can't see this, but I've stretched out my other arm to my right, and I'm going to cut there. I can always tie on if I do run out, but I think that's plenty. And then carefully taking my needle off here. Do be careful with your needle. They're not particularly sharp, but they still could do damage. So just going to thread my needle up. And thread my wool down there, so I can always kind of keep moving my wool along as I work it. So then we're carrying on exactly the same process, but it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and at whatever point you want to stop. So on this one I did go right into the middle. It was pulling in quite neatly, and then I left a little hole in the middle in order to put the bead in that centre. So I'm going to speed up again. So I've nearly closed up the centre of the dream catcher, so I'm just going to add a little bead to finish. So these blue beads you'll be able to pass your needle through, and then I can position that in the middle, and then I'm just going to go to the opposite side and loop it round there, and I will loop it around a couple of times. And just got a little gap there, so I might do a little loop in there as well. So I can always fill that space up a teeny bit. And then I'm going to the back. I'm not sure why. I think they're both exactly the same. And then I'm just going to tie a knot in my string. So I'll do that by going through and then back through the middle of my loop. And I'll do that twice. Again, if you do the nail varnish trick, you'll make sure that it doesn't come apart. And if you are doing the nail varnish, let it dry and then cut your string. And that is our dream catcher's web. So the next thing, which is really over to you, is add in your tassely bits. So you've got a selection of the white, a nice blue, some white fluffy bits and silver bits. So really, however you want to hang those on. What I did with this one is, let's have a look what I did with that one. So I've got more in the middle, so I alternated. I had some white and blue there in the middle, and then some of the silver and white, and then just keep alternating and using the spacing of the web to help me hang it. So we've then got just a little single bit of white as well. I think the white's my favourite. So you could add various things onto there as well. You could add some of the charms. You could go out and find some feathers. Dream catchers would normally have feathers on there. So that bit entirely over to you really. I'll just show you how I've done the knot. You could use some of the fabric that's left over. I always like a bit of recycled fabric. So I'm just going to, for ease, pull out some of the white and blue. Pull. Yeah. So we've got 4 there. So the easiest way to tie these on is to kind of fold that in half, and then I've got my loop there. I'm going to take those 4 strands, feed it through the centre of the loop. That pulls down, and that is your tassels hanging on. So that's it. That's over to you to do your dream catchers.